So tonight I am going to see Luke Severide by myself. He's going to be not too far from me. It's like, I don't know, within 15 minutes. So I'm gonna go. And didn't have anyone to go with me, so I'm going by myself. Be the first time. I mean, look, it's been like the second comedian that I've seen live, but the only one that I've gone to myself. But since I'm doing all the things by myself now, we're gonna roll with it. So, yeah, I'm not worried about it anyway. I find that my biggest thing is if I can get past the concerns about parking and, you know, getting to the venue from the car and being able to remember where my car is later. As long as I get through all that, I'm good. And I don't know exactly where the place is, but I've been over there. We had a couple roller derby meetings at a place nearby from it. So I've been in the area, and I think I'll figure it out easy enough. Obviously I'll go a little early. Not too early, because if I have to pee, then I'll be by myself, and like, that's not a problem, except for there'd be nobody to hold my spot at a table or anything, and I mean... But I'll figure it out. It'll be alright. Yeah. It has been an amazing day. I think it's supposed to be like 79 today. We just got back from a walk, and obviously she's loving this weather. My aunt and the corgi went with us, so of course we can't let the dogs down. When my aunt goes along for a walk, we have to go get ice cream. So we did that. So my breakfast was today a cherry whip twist, and it was delightful. And she just had her little pup cup, but she liked it as well. And I got a really cute picture of all four of the dogs in the back seat together, and they look really super happy because it's a nice day. They just had their ice cream, and yeah, so I got a couple really cute pictures, which I don't have printed off at this point, or I would show you. So yeah. Hi. You have to keep doing it. Is your wagon back there? Yeah. Yeah. Super cuddly today. You know, I was in a great mood yesterday, and the day before was the one I braved it up and shared something with the class that, I mean, it was the whole thing for me to try to put it together so I could to organize it and share it with a group of people. And I made it to class, got there. It was like 6:05 when I walked into the class, but they weren't done getting something set up, and it was like one of their sound bowls that they brought in for the class that night. And fighting the curtain. You're gonna like kick me now. It's just way up here. But yeah, like, Annie looked at me that night and like, she said, "Does anybody have any spirit stories?" And then looks over at me, and I just grinned. So obviously I get to go first. She looked right at me, and that was all exciting. And of course, since I was reading for a group, and I still had to deal with some of like the anxiety of having gotten there and wanted to share this thing, and then I went ahead and shared the thing, and like afterwards I just felt amazing. And I mentioned in yesterday's video, it's like before I did the video, I got an email from YouTube saying that I had a comment, and it was like a bullying comment basically, and I figure I'm gonna leave it up so people can, so whenever I get to had a sticker on my leg. It says, "Caution, keep bags away from children." I remember messing with that sticker yesterday because I pulled it off the doggy bags. We had a new roll of them that went with us on the walk, and I didn't see where it landed in the car, so apparently it was on the back of my thigh. Cool. But anyway, yeah, I'm good. Like, the first couple comments that felt like they were like borderline bullying. I mean, they weren't awful comments or anything, but it's like, it still, when I read them, I felt like it was just somebody trying to tear me down, right? So I went ahead and deleted those. The one yesterday, since I was in such a good mood, and like literally the night before, had this conversation with this lady, her name's Cece, at the restaurant after class, and she was asking about, you know, like stuff with the family, because the part of what I shared was the connection with the narcissistic relatives, and she said, "Do you find that as you're more positive, it's like they come at you a little harder, like more aggressively?" And it's like, oh, absolutely. You know, and the first thing, this butt's walking away here. Like the first thing I thought of was, you know, I think it was the day before, where my mom was getting ready to go over to my grandma's house and was all bubbly, and I think knowing that I didn't want to go along or wouldn't go along, and she said, "Do you want to go visit your grandmother with me?" And it's like, I just said, "No, I don't." And then she like wastes no time to look at me and say, "You really don't like your grandmother anymore, do you?" And it's like, I see what you're doing there. It's like, no, it's not that. Quite frankly, she's one of the most negative people I know, and I don't have any desire to be around the immense negativity. And I think she took the hint that that's also talking about her, because, you know, I don't spend a whole lot of time with her and my dad as well. But since I was in such a good mood, I did comment on yesterday's bully, you know, and I talked about her in the video, but I left that up on the post. I did block her from the channel, because ain't nobody got time for that bullshit. So, yeah, so I blocked her from the channel, hid the other comments. See, because she said the shitty thing, and then there was somebody that had responded with "live and let live," you know, and she had 2 other comments to that person's response. And then when I responded, she came back with like 2 other things, and I deleted everything except for the first comment, and then the first comment she had on the person that said "live and let live," you know, when she responded to them, just so for future reference people would be able to see that she's the kind of person that's just going to keep going as long as she can get some kind of engagement. But then we're cutting that engagement off, because that's where they win. She is one of those life-sucking types that literally thrives on pulling you out of your happy mood, right? Which I thought was really kind of fun, that was, of all the days that person specifically popped up, it was in the, like, I don't know that I've ever been in that good of a mood in my life, honestly, because I feel like I'm really turning a page at this point. You know, it's like I'm not, honestly, I've had a lot of difficulty moving past the negative things in the past, and I feel like with everything that's going on right now and getting ready to shift in my life, that it was literally just something to see if I would take the bait, you know. So I commented on her thing, and then when she like came back twice, I deleted those. And I honestly, the third comment, because she had 2 in response to the person that said "live and let live," I accidentally deleted the third comment, but then it's like, you know what, it's not really relevant, but I am going to leave the other one that just shows that she's literally the kind of person that's just trying to bait people into her bullshit. You know, that's how the bullies work, right? They come at you when you're in a good mood, try to knock you off balance and pull you into their misery, because then they feel like they've really done something big and important, because they can share the misery. Misery loves company, right? So I handled all that, and then I went and I skated in the rain for part of it. That was fun. Since it hadn't rained recently, the pavement was dry enough that as it was sprinkling on me, it wasn't a problem, and I skated 2 miles in the sprinkles. Wasn't raining real hard, luckily. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to continue. But you know, I was listening to my I had like certain songs I just got fired up for, and of course, Du Hast by Rammstein. That was on there. That Apage Satana by Rotting Christ, that was on there. Shinedown's Bully. And Bloodywood, Dan. Like, those are like some of my go-tos right now. I really like the breeze. I just don't want it like messing up the video. But I had at least the first 2 on repeat for a while, and then I kind of branched off and, you know, I put others in the queue as they felt really relevant. And, you know, as I was skating, of course, I'm rolling with the whole intention setting thing, and it's like, okay, you know, we're going to sever all connections with this toxic person that was trying to gunk up my aura because I'm finally in a better space than I ever have been in my life. And it's like, that's, as I'm looking at it, it's like I'm realizing is like, that's literally why there have been so many bullies in my life, is because anytime I start showing like a glimmer of optimism, they like show up to put me in my place and knock me down a peg, so, you know, they can basically thrive off my good energy with their toxicity, right? And, you know, I went along with it for far too long, and, you know, that's just, it's like I'm not willing to do that anymore. So, of course, you know, intention setting, you know, like my one card talked about, the Animal Apothecary deck talked about how putting intention with movement, I forget how it said, but it creates powerful results or something like that. I was like, all right, so we're just going to skate this shit out of my system, you know, disconnect, you know, get some, invoke the powers of Archangel Michael to sever the toxic connection and make sure there is no cord left over from that ickiness. And I feel great today too. Yeah, God, okay, I was really incredibly tired last night, and it was probably like 11 when I went to bed, when I actually turned the light out and went to sleep, which was a little earlier than normal. Usually I'm in bed, but I still am doing other things, like whether playing on my phone and watching videos or just listening to music and journaling or whatever. Like, I'm usually up till closer to 2. But last night I was just like, nope, ready for sleep. I'm just wiped. And for a long time, you know, I generally will listen to like some kind of frequency tones while I'm sleeping. And like the one that I had been listening to, it's got like this butterfly on the main page, and it's like 1111 hertz. So obviously 1111. But it's like supposed to bring or release blocks from love and connection and like all these happy things. And so I was listening to that for a while, and there have been other ones that I've listened to for different reasons. And last night, okay, I don't know if my phone updated or if YouTube updated or what happened, but like the past few weeks there's been some occasions where YouTube will like shut off. Usually, like if I'm in the middle of watching like a tarot reading or something, that's really annoying. But it doesn't always do it. And, you know, because like when Gracie was around, I had like I think a chakra healing frequency thing that played all night. And the first night, I think that's probably why she enjoyed sleeping in my room so much. Because that went through. I don't know if I played it this. I don't think I played it the second night. I don't remember what happened with that. I don't know. But yeah, just like healing chakras and putting you back in alignment, really. And I mean, it might have been a day that it just shut off. I honestly don't know. But last night, it did shut itself off. But it seemed like it took longer than it normally would if I was watching something and it shut off. But of course, once I put my phone in sleep mode and like all the color is gone from it, then it gets kind of hard to tell like when it dims. So it didn't, I didn't have it facing me. I had it face down on the nightstand. But after like 5 minutes, the music shut off, and then it's like, I turned it back on once, and then it's like, you did it again. It's like, yeah, screw it, I'm just meant to sleep without any extra noise tonight, you know? And I think I did need it. So maybe I don't need all the extra stuff playing around me at night, even if it's for healing purposes. It's like sometimes just need to sleep. That is okay too. God, I slept good too. I mean, I did wake up like 3 times, but it felt like every time I woke up, it was like after the REM cycle, or whatever. And it, though the first time was funny because, well, was that the first time? Might have been the second time. I'm going to say second time because when I was ready to feed the dogs, they were like sound asleep, and I was like, oh shit, we're moving. So since I didn't want them to wake me up further, maybe that's my hint from the universe that we just need silence. It's not even silence because we have the rain sounds playing on the white noise machine. Maybe that's just all we need for a little while so we can kind of just rest. But then this morning, it was kind of weird. I woke up and I was thinking about how it's like an interesting sort of feeling, because I've talked about how I feel like I'm ready to get to the good stuff in my life, right? And just kind of be done with this whole family situation. It's funny because, like funny haha or anything. But I feel like I'm good and ready for that. Like with my father, like not a problem, because we don't talk most of the time anyway, because, well, for various reasons. But I was kind of thinking about how it feels weird that my mom, it's a lot harder to be like, yeah, I'm just completely ready to sever the connection and be done with it altogether, right? It's like, that's still my mom, and it's still, the whole, it's just a icky dynamic, because she's shown time and again that she's gonna do the mean thing. She's going to perk up when something goes wrong for me. Like, she got all sorts of excited to tell my dad that my dog bit somebody the other day. And it's like, first off, you completely neglect the fact that the asshole put his hand in my car while the dog was already going off. It's like, that was all on that dude. Everything about that dude was in the wrong. And you're basically gloating because my dog stood up for me, and for his space. It's like, that in and of itself is a whole icky dynamic. I don't, I don't know what's happening with my lighting. My screen keeps going kind of dim. Um, Probably because of a cloud or something, I guess, but then just triggering my phone funky, but whatever. But yeah, it's like every time something like that comes up, she's more than happy to jump on it right then. It's like, it's still that whole fact that it's my mom, and theoretically, in a non-toxic family situation, your mom's supposed to be, if you're lucky, a solid connection, and not getting joy out of your biggest disappointments in life or whatever. It's like, or stealing the glory of the really good moments. It's like, that's not a healthy situation, and a normal mother would not do that. But yeah, but I woke up, okay, before that, last night we were sitting at the table, and like she's looking at puppies again. She's kind of always looking at puppies. I just am not as aware of it when I'm not in the room, because I'm trying to get out of here before they get another puppy. Although she did find one that's super cute, but I still don't want to have any kind of responsibility for another puppy. I just don't. Not at this point anytime. I got my own 3 to handle, and some days they're a lot to handle, but I love them. So, but it's like, she's always like the first person to jump on the oh, something's not going well for you bandwagon. It's like, I don't like that at all. It's like, that's largely why I won't be around my grandmother too, is because as bad as things were at times with my mom, she proved that back in August that she knew things were not normal or right at all, and she chose to do nothing about it to try to help me and my brother out, which, she was talking about something that happened with a kid my mom used to babysit, but still, it's like, it still shows, if you have that kind of awareness, that there was something wrong, that you chose not to help the people that couldn't do anything to help themselves. That I have all sorts of issue with. So, on that end, it's like, with my grandmother, I've said on here before, like, she got really passive aggressive and shitty with, she's always passive aggressive, but she got really shitty when my brother chose to go to his 8-year-old autistic child's choir concert thing where they were supposed to play downtown at this arts garden thing, because he chose to do that with his daughter. They had spent the visitation, they were there for the visitation, but since he specifically chose not to be there for his grandfather's funeral because his daughter had this other thing going on, yeah, she was shitty, and she made this big deal about, my brother said they went over there after, probably a week after he passed away, and said, she got real snarky and said, "Oh, sorry, I missed Gracie's recital. It was Donnie and my wedding anniversary, and he's more important." It's like, okay, so your dead husband, who your anniversary is not for 6 months, or 4 months, yeah. So there's just, like, everything about it was wrong, because she's saying straight out with the 8-year-old child in the room that her dead husband is more important, which, whatever, but it was just the fact that, okay, first off, she wasn't invited to Gracie's dance recital to begin with, because nobody expected she would even bother to go if she, whether she was in better health or not. We're just pretty sure she wasn't going to do it, so just, she usually gets added in with, there's this thing, if you want to go, you're welcome to come, but we didn't figure you'd want to go. And she wouldn't, so, but like this was in December, and it was like a week after my grandfather, no, a week after the funeral, I think was what it was. because his funeral was the next week, and then I think it was, well, sometime in that next week after the funeral. But she didn't get invited to Gracie's dance recital first, and she just, there's a cardinal, she just made a big production for the sake of being an asshole, saying that it was their wedding anniversary and he's more important, so just all of these things. And, when my brother told me that, especially after what she said in August, regarding my mom and the fact that she knew that some stuff was sketchy as hell and chose not to do anything. It's like, he said to me that he just really was feeling like there was nothing for him here anymore. It's like, I feel that right there with you. Like my aunt that I spent earlier today walking dogs with, she's one I would like to stay in connection with, but at the same time, if I don't want my mom having any access even through her. And honestly, I think if I get to a point where I do tell her that whenever I do go to leave, I think she would try to respect it. I think the issue would be, I also don't particularly care for her husband for various reasons that I've also talked about on here in the past. And I think there would be the bigger issue if she would have a harder time keeping him out of it, because, okay, they share a Facebook account for one thing, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if she actually got on Instagram now. I know at one point, back when I joined, somebody started an account for her, and I knew very much that she did not have one. And this person starts asking me questions, or starts talking to me, and I was like, just trying to fuck with him because I knew that it wasn't her. I was like, hey, how do we know each other again? And whoever stole her account was like, I don't have time for these kind of questions. It's like, that, first off, she would have answered that in a hurry. Even if it made her raise an eyebrow or something, she still would have answered my question. But yeah, it's like, yeah. I think he was trying to talk me out of money or something. It's like, yep, that's your first thing right there. That's not her at all. So, but yeah, if she actually does, and she might now, I don't know for sure one way or another. I think there's been enough other people that have talked about it that she could potentially get it. Well, it's showing her picture, but I don't know. I'm leaving that one alone. But usually, Facebook, my uncle is very much in her account, so it's like, yeah. He usually says his name and then here, and it's like, yeah. When he's responding to something or commenting on something, it's like, yeah, this is weird. I don't like that, because it's just, it's not under both of their names. It's still under her name, but then he'll just tag in and say, oh, it's me. It's like, yeah. So that would be where it would get sketchy, because he would be snooping and he would be more than happy to share everything that, I wouldn't particularly want shared. So, that's the biggest thing, is because it's like, yeah, happy moments you should want to share with your family. But if you had a really toxic family system, then it is perfectly acceptable to not want to. But it is so hard to try to make that distinction. And I think that's kind of where I'm at now. When I woke up this morning and was thinking about, how if it was just my dad, I've already we barely speak to each other as it is, but somehow it's more difficult with my mom. And it was exactly because that was literally how we were raised, was basically being her supply first, right? And enabling my grandfather and his toxicity. So it's it really is a shitty situation. And I think part of where I get so especially hung up is because I have so many of these damn cancer placements, and cancer is all about home and family. So there's the snag. But yeah, it's I'm just it's frustrating, you know, because my current existence, if it wasn't for the class that, you know, I don't really talk to anybody outside of class. If it wasn't for that, it's like I don't have any friends at the moment. And it's just, it's very much the universe is trying to really lock it in that the things that are toxic in the family are going to remain toxic in the family. And like, if I had good things outside of it, like if I had more friends that I was connecting with on a regular basis, it would be easier to kind of sweep the other stuff under the rug, because then I would at least still have some kind of connection elsewhere. And, you know, even thinking back to that, like, that makes perfect sense for when I was disconnecting from Alabama too, from my ex down there. When damn stink bugs. I hate those things. Do not ever kill the stink bugs in your space, because then they release pheromones and it will draw others into your space, and they are horrible, and it is ridiculously hard to get rid of them, especially if anybody else is squashing them along the way. So it's like but yeah, I'm sure they probably do the same thing if you collect them and throw them in the toilet, which is what we usually do. What I usually do, because I'm trying not to just squash them, but it's like, I don't think there's any winning with those things. I think you're just yeah. Anyway, but yeah, going back to Alabama. Okay, when we were down there, when I left in 2015 and used it as the excuse of I needed to finish out the last semester of seminary, at that point in time, he bought a house in the spring because the lease was going to be up on the apartment that summer. So rather than keep paying, we had to rent a 2-bedroom apartment because we were supposed to have his son down there with us to some degree, but his son's mother started some shit where we weren't able to have him. So we had like this spare bedroom and spare bathroom that ended up just being, you know, unused space, because we really didn't move much into it. You know, we ended up buying a couple recliners and a bed, and like before then we were crashing on an air mattress for a while. Which is fun when we did finally get a cat down there, or get the cat down there. She stayed with the former in-laws when we first moved down there, because we were going down there specifically to look for a place and had a bunch of shit with us that we were moving into the space. So yeah, but we went a while where we just had the air mattress, so that was fun too. Anyway, when we moved into the house, and he got all into the bearded dragon thing, and well, he'd already started on the bearded dragons. We had like 3 in the apartment, but then he wanted to breed them when we were in the house, and I wanted no part of that whole breeding ordeal. But because whatever I said and did, it didn't matter, because he wanted to, he did it anyway. But then I ended up, you know, trying to keep everything healthy. So like the bearded dragon that was the stud. He ended up at one point, we weren't sure if he had like some kind of prolapse happening or got something else stuck or whatever, and I had to take him to the vet. So when I was there and I told the vet tech what was going on, she was excited because she wanted a bearded dragon, and hey, we were getting ready to have baby bearded dragons, so she was really interested in all that, right? So she ended up becoming a really good friend of mine for a while. And she was just over the state line in Mississippi when, we were in Mobile. And she worked for the vet that was like right down the road from us, the exotic animal vet. And so I met her there. Then that year, come December, there was a big ordeal with the baby mama drama again. And we ended up having to come back to Indiana for like 3 weeks. Of course, it was around Christmas, so there's a whole bunch of other drama in there. But the big thing was there were eggs. There were bearded dragon eggs that were supposed to be hatching at some point in time, but we weren't even going to be there to take care of the eggs. So they might not do anything, or they might, right? But we needed somebody to take care of them while we were gone. So I ended up, since I had her phone number, I was like, look, we're kind of in a spot. I said, would you be interested in possibly checking on our cat and the eggs and making sure everything's okay with them, keeping an eye on the reptiles if they need anything while we're gone. And she did, and she ended up, we just gave her one of the babies when they hatched. She got first choice in which one she wanted. And all was fine and well, but we ended up being friends. We hung out a few times. But then let's see. Okay, so that was the end of 2016. The end of 2017 was when I left my ex for 9 months. In the time that I was gone, she moved to Utah and was out there with her dad for a while. And he had some health problems. She ended up getting married to one of his friends. So it was a whole complicated thing, but since she moved out there before I moved back down to Alabama for the last time, so then when I was in Alabama, I didn't have that friend connection. I mean, there were still the two couples that we spent time with, the couple friends, that the husbands all worked together. We still spent some time with them, but still, kind of limited on closeness when you're not around them all the time. I did spend time with one of the wives before I left to kind of say goodbye when I left for good. But I also had the time to... The one couple's daughter moved in with her fiance, and they had a housewarming party because they bought a house together. And when they bought the house, it's like right around the time I was getting ready to leave, and I decided that I was going to leave after the party. This is when I was leaving for good, so I could say bye to everybody. And because my ex had made it clear that he was going to talk shit about me as soon as I left, because that's what he'd done every time I left before. Like the one time when he was talking shit about me was to his brother. So, and I came across all that information because I was putting his case together for his custody stuff for his son. And the bigger part of what I was there for was to try to clear his brother's name, and I think to help show his son that just because his parents were shitbags doesn't mean that he had to forever be that himself, that there was another way of being in the world. But yeah, is what it is, and not my circus, not my monkeys. But because I already saw that, because I was the one going through the stuff for the court shit, and saw the conversations where he was initiating how bad I was and, all that stuff. It's like, I know how this is going. So before I left, I made sure I got the chance to say goodbye to the friends that I did have down there. We stayed connected on Facebook. I talked to one of the wives several months after the fact, and they said he basically fell off the planet, and yeah, they still worked together, but he didn't really want a whole lot to do with being around them or anything. It's like, fair. Because I got the opportunity to ruin his illusion before he could just paint this shitty picture of me. So yeah. But anyway, when I moved before the last time, because that one was that last time, so this is why I jump around too much. It's too much. My friend that moved out to Utah, when she ended up moving back to Alabama, and would have been like, she actually moved to Alabama, like she was on the other side of the Mississippi state line for a while when I first moved down there, but then she moved into Alabama with her current husband, that I think she's in process of getting divorced from. But there's just a whole lot of mismatched timing things. So it was like, if she would have been there and I would have been spending time with her regularly, it would have made it a lot harder to leave. But since she was across the country, it was like, there ain't nothing keeping me here. So then I moved, and then she got into the same kind of situation where then she was over, back in, but her parents were, or her mom was a lot closer, her mom and stepdad. But yeah, there's just still the wobble and the connection that made it so she wasn't something that I was motivating me to stay there at that point. And I'm going to take a pause real quick. Okay, we're both back. So yeah, but I feel like just the mismatch in the timeline was what made it help me to get out of there. So now that I'm not connected to anybody super tightly here, it'll make it easier when it is time for me to go to the next place, right? But still, it's like the universe is trying to really let it sink in that she's always going to do the same stuff, right? It's literally just like that much of a change. It's like, as soon as there's an opportunity to throw me under the bus, she's all about it. So it's like, just because my mom doesn't mean she's ever going to stop doing that, and I've always felt like, I've mentioned on here before that me and my brother have had conversations where it's like, do you feel like we've been more the parents than the kids around here? Because I totally do. And I was thinking about that a second ago. It's like, and this morning it was part of my, how happy she is in the wind. With all the Cancer placements there too. Because, okay, Cancer is the mother of the zodiac, essentially. So it's like, yeah, there's that zodiac component of why I am the way I am, but also, the fact that it's not going to change with this family and these people that I've always been connected to. And like, literally, it was just in January where my bear won the contest, and within a half an hour finding out that I won something, they had like hijacked the day, and I spent the rest of the day crying. And it's like, they're not going to change. And that was the thing from last night when I was sitting there and it was peaceful and we were getting along just fine. Hi, baby. We were getting along just fine. Oh, sorry if you heard my dog fart. That was a big one, too. Be so proud. Yeah. Anyway, it's enough of that. No more. Stop. Yeah. God, Taz, messed up my train of thought. That's not... I don't do that well enough on my own. Lose the train of thought. Oh, last night, yeah. The big thing was it was peaceful in that moment, and, I had the thought of, but she's still not going to change. And then, I was still going back and forth on the whole stickiness of the fact that I am ready to go do something else in my life, right? And I'm ready to have a life of my own. I've never been allowed to do that. I've never been able to figure out how to do that, and I couldn't figure out why I've been so stuck and unable to do that. How did I get to 41 and have nothing to show for it, right? And it all goes back to the toxic family system, right? So, last night as I was kind of going back and forth in my head, I literally, I heard Dr. Ramani say, stop gaslighting yourself. It's just like, that's all I'm doing, is like thinking the best in anybody else, and then that there's an opportunity that she's going to suddenly be something other than what she's always been in my life. It's like, that's not going to happen. Even like all the changing that I've done in the past year and a half, it's like, it still took a long time for me to get to the point where I was really ready to open up to some of these changes, right? And like fully embrace them, because change takes a while. And you know what? If, like in her case, she's not motivated to do anything, because as long as I can stay miserable, or she can pull me back into some kind of misery, then she wins, because that's what she's thriving on. And it's like, the only way to make any of that go away is to stop allowing it, and that goes back to, I have been able to set boundaries where I wouldn't have been able to before, but at the same time, like, there are still some places that I find that it gets kind of stickier and hard to do, because that's my mom, and this was literally how I was raised. So it's really hard to fully embrace that, which is why I think I am still here like I am right now, because the universe is really wanting to make sure I'm good and ready to disconnect completely. And God, I'm ready for all the good stuff, y'all. I'm ready to stop having the shit show of a lifetime and go do something worthwhile for once. But I know that can't fully happen while I'm still here at any capacity. So, gotta stop gaslighting myself so I can just go ahead and move on to the next thing and have space for the family of my choosing, and not just because I was stuck with them, because I was born into this family and so I'm forever stuck to it, right? No. Which, there again, that's literally what I was raised to do. I wasn't raised to have my own life. I was raised to forever feed into the toxic family cycle, where they benefit from the fact that I'm the kind of person that is prone to bending over backwards to try to help people, and yet there's no reciprocation of any sort here, because they thrive on bringing me into their misery, and not, if I am in a better energetic space and especially have boundaries, they don't benefit from that. So it's frustrating as hell. But I think, I feel like that's exactly why the whole bullyish comment came up yesterday for yesterday's video too, was because, like, that kind of connection, it's easy to just, like, cut it off and let it go. I mean, relatively easy. Old me would have got really hung up on that. But since I am learning to set boundaries, and since I was having a really good day before that, and, like, it's like full 24 hours or better kind of a thing, that, like, was a good span of time. And then before that person came along, so it's like, that person is nobody to me. I don't know what they look like or anything. They're just hiding behind some picture and a lame screen name on freaking YouTube. So it's like, and you can go in there and block them, and there'll be others that'll pop up along the way, kind of like when the lessons come back to see if you've fully learned the lesson, or if you're ready to, and you're ready to move on, or if you're going to go back into that bullshit, And I had that, like, I was going through my, some of my Instagram followers, like, I blocked my mom. I did do that the other day. I don't know if she's realized it at this point in time. I think she spends all her time elsewhere, that I don't think she really has made that connection yet, which is good, but I mean, yeah, it's whatever. But there was this other person that came up when I was looking through the followers and trying to see who of my toxic family accidentally snuck in, because I honestly did not remember allowing my mom access, and yet then there she was, and it's like, that don't feel right. Anyway, when I was working at the first factory back in 2019 to 2020, there was this guy that I was like very casually friendly acquaintances with at work, and what I realized was, okay, it took a while, because back then I wasn't good about the setting boundaries thing, and back then I think I had heard, okay, so I started wearing like the obsidian necklace and whatnot. I don't know if all of these are obsidian, but like the big pendant on the end of it is. But, I was getting into boundaries setting, right? And then I heard, I think it was Aaron Dowdy had a thing, and he was kind of, posing the question of, but then are you blocking out too much? And it's like, well, that's a good point. So am I blocking out everything with that just because I'm trying to protect my energy at this level? And so I stopped wearing it for a while. And then, I had a friend that was, she was psychic in Georgia, that we met online. I don't even know how exactly we met. I did have a reading from her, but I think that wasn't early on necessarily. Maybe it was. I don't remember. But she said something about clearing my energy from time to time, and she said something about needing to sage myself. And it's like, well, I have a bunch of birds, so I don't really... I was like, how can I sage myself with a bunch of birds? Because it's hard on their respiratory systems. They have really sensitive respiratory systems, what I've always heard, so... not trying to kill the birds. And she said, well, they do make a spray. It's like, oh. So then I found the spray. So then I started making that like a regular thing, and it helped, but I think, I wasn't necessarily doing it all the time. So then it's like, okay, well, how much help is it if I'm not being consistent? Because like those energy vampire types, it's like they're always constantly poking to see where they can get in and latch on to your good energy to pull you down. Basically the whole, going back to that dead car battery piece, where if you hook yourself up to a dead car battery, all you do is get drained from it. That kind of situation. So yeah. But I stopped for a little bit with the obsidian, and then what I have realized because of the whole twin flame thing is that I cannot, under any circumstances, not protect my energy. It's like, literally just because I am always inclined to want to bend over backwards to help people. It's like, that's literally how I've lost so much of myself throughout my entire lifetime, and I can't do that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. It's like, how do I get to the life I want to live? By completely blocking out the types that are going to, just suck the life out of me, basically. Yeah. I really want that bug out of my room. It's on my screen. So... these screens move up and down. If I can figure out how to do that easy enough that I can squish them out there, then I will. But yeah, right now, I don't know, since I'm doing this, I'm not going to do that right this second. And this dog's just staring at me. 2:30. Okay. Gracie will be over here for a little bit. No, chill. I'm not ready yet. Not ready. But yeah, like the whole boundary thing. It's like every now and then there's been somebody that will pop up, even like the one time. And, Aaron Dowdy, like he's the one that I mentioned, but I feel like he was probably posing it as a question of, if you're blocking blocking all the negative, are you also making it so the positive can't get in any kind of way? So I don't know. I just realized, like, through everything that I've learned in that time, 5, is that no, I cannot be too precautious or too cautious with my energy. And it's like, because it's not just, it's not just my mom poking around my energy. It's like all the further out layers that will do it as well to see if they can find their way back in. Like the random person on YouTube the other day. And then yesterday, it's like, you know what? We're just like, I even like did that while I was skating. We're just like, brush it off. It's like, we don't need any of that. And yeah, so like, okay, I did change the type of sage spray that I use, because since my brother and his family, were kind of needing some assistance on setting better boundaries too, I gave them the sage spray that I was using. It's like, well, I go over to the school or to the shop all the time, so I'll just get some more, right? And when I was there, it's like, okay, so it was white sage before, but then there's also Palo Santo. It's like, so which is better? And I read something that talked about how the Palo Santo was... something I read about it was talking about it blocks the negative out, but also allows room for the positive in. It's like, well, I would like positivity somewhere. Let's have some good experiences, right? Like, let's invite that stuff in. And of course, I use like different intention sprays with them. Honestly, the big one, there's this one type of stuff that I got. It's this Pretty Dope Soul. And I love this spray. It's like for yoga mats and all this stuff. It's like, I don't fucking care. We're just like using it because it smells good. And I can't find it anymore. I think they stopped making it. It's like, but then I was looking at the shop, and since they didn't have any more of that, it's like they do have this rose water refresher spray. And rose is like one of the highest frequency things there is, right? So I got this spray. Anytime I spend very much time at all with my family, it's like the first thing I do is go into my bathroom, get the rose water, just spray myself in the face. I am very partial to it, actually. But yeah, my rocks and everything, we had that kind of, when I was talking to Cece at dinner the other day, it's like we were talking about, I told her specifically, it's like I feel like there are other types of energetic drains, like the parasitic energies out there, that come around and are able to latch on through other people's energy. So, okay, the one specifically that I'm thinking of, and it's like talking to this lady about at the table when the guy that I was referring to was in the class when I started, and I think I'm part of the reason he stopped going, because at one point, when I realized that, he was really encouraging me and this one girl to be friends, and I think you guys would get along great, and blah, 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 and it was like, I felt that about her too, the snag was she was taking classes with him. So he would have been accessing my energy because me and her were friends and she was connected to him. So when he is able to be a leech on her energy, he also is able to weasel in and leech on my energy as well. And, I think it was July last year, like I was talking to her every little bit for a while. And then I got to a point where I had this realization and was like, if this connection is only so he has access to my energy, it's like, no, we're not doing that anymore. And like, I just set this intention that if that was the sole purpose of this connection, then we were not going to be connected anymore. And she stopped talking to me. Like she just kind of fell off the planet. And it's like, okay, so then I didn't go back to class for a while. But then when I did, she's in the middle of going through her second divorce, and like just her energy just feels really unsteady. And like, I know I've been there before, but I also know that as long as she's connected to him in any way, and I don't know that she's taking classes with him anymore. The past couple weeks, I ended up sitting across the table, well, diagonally across. Last week it was right across. This week it was diagonally across from her. But the guy that was with her was also taking classes with this other guy. So I almost asked if they still had any connection to him. And at some point I probably will. Because like, then it's like, because I feel very much like if they don't actively communicate with him, he's still leeching off their energy. And I say that because that was what I realized my ex was doing with my energy. And like any kind of anything that I felt toward him, he was still benefiting from that sort of energy hit, because it was causing me to be like unsteady in my own space, right? That was one of those things that, it came up with the whole twin flame thing and really realizing what all this energy stuff even is, because like after I connected with his energy, the twin flame, then it was like it suddenly sent me kind of in this like sort of weird spiraling kind of feeling, and really realizing that I didn't feel safe in my own body. And I talked about at one point, I did a video, I think it ended up being like 2 hours, the one that I'm thinking in particular, but I was talking about the one dream where I was sitting on this couch and Ziva was on my lap and she was snarling at my ex and he was there, and I just had this really strong sense that he wasn't there. But I said something about like the anger was like all red and black, and it's like, well, red and black are both connected to the root chakra and safety things. So it's like, oh, it was like, so part of where that not feeling safe was because there was literally a leech on my energy that was like, sucking the life out of me. And it's like, okay, so that one, we got that connection all severed and whatnot, but it's like, then there's still this whole situation with the family, and that, of course, being the harder situation to break away from because it's family and cancer. That ruler of the fourth house, which is all about home and family, and the mother of the zodiac piece and all that stuff. Like, so yeah, it's like, this is why it's so damn hard to get away from this, is because because who I am, if we want to just look at my freaking birth chart, it says this is going to be a little bit sticky to navigate through. But, as I was having that conversation about not gaslighting myself, and reminding myself of all the times that, like the other day with the dog, how quickly she was to jump on that situation, and oh, her dog bit somebody, it's like, that's never going to change. And I just need to stop getting lost to the feelings of being hopeful that it would, because as long as I'm here and she can in any way benefit from me not thriving, she's absolutely not going to change. Now, I think, as I've said before, I am not one that says they can never change, but as long as they are thriving from other people, giving their energy to them in any kind of way, they're not going to change. And, we don't know what anybody else's life lesson is, so it's not on us to or try to make ourselves stay miserable, to try to stay hopeful that they can possibly change, when, quite frankly, you being there in the situation and still being kind of miserable is exactly why they're not going to change. So, yeah. So I just am ready to get up out of this situation and get to the next stuff where, I can have the family of my choosing. And she's just like really attentive, and she just keeps like looking at me and cocking her head. And I know what she wants. She wants to play. She's got her little thing with her. So, yeah. Hi. Not yet. She just keeps watching me and wagging. And then she cock her head and like, I'm still cute. Are you licking yet? But yeah, it's like, so at the end of the day, it comes back to not gaslighting myself with the bullshit. Just because we're having a peaceful moment doesn't mean anything's changed. And I think as long as I am still here in this space, the universe is going to keep showing me reminders of that. And, I've talked about how I feel like my brother and his family are meant to get out of here before I do, but I'm not far behind. But largely because, I'm still... Because at the end of the day, I'm the one that, is the energetic enemy where my mom's concerned, because I'm the one that sees through the bullshit. He's doing a lot better, but there are still things that, my sister-in-law and I are having to point out to him because he's otherwise missing, because that's how we were raised, and he was the favorite because, she very much played on his emotions and whatnot. So I feel like a big part of me still being here is as a buffer until he goes out there. And tomorrow my sister-in-law goes to Oklahoma, and for the current time, he and his daughter will be staying here in the current house because they don't close on the new house until the end of May. Now, if something happens and this house sells before then, which we're going to... I told him, it's like, stop trying to offer that in as a possibility and just be thankful. So we're just going to be thankful that you're going to have a place to stay as long as you need to, and we'll not have to, try to crash in my grandma's spare bedroom or something. It's like, no, we're not trying to get you and Gracie having to deal with that energy all the time, because that would not be helpful. And there's not space here because, I got my bed in one space and the office in the other. So, yeah, that's that. Yeah, it's just a hot mess. But for now, I'm a buffer and kind of blocking my mom from being able to focus on him too specifically, because I can distract her away from some of it, call attention to the fact that he should be able to have his own life. It's not healthy for this, this codependency thing that you raised us in. It's not a healthy thing at all. But yeah. Anyway, guess I'll wrap it up so I can go throw this damn ball and then hang out with the kid a little bit before I go to this comedian tonight comedy show by myself. Yeah. You know, I have some movie passes that I got. I think I have 3 of them so far. Free movie passes for AMC theaters because I donate platelets periodically. And when I came back and first said anything about them, my mom was all like, "Oh, I'd like to go to a movie." And it's like, I think I'm going to go by myself. Because I'm not afraid to do things by myself, right? And, you know, I think my concerts helped me with that. And, yeah. She's ready to play. And I'm pretty sure she heard me say, you know, of course she heard me say play just then. So, make her get off the bed. So I'm going to wrap it up so I can go ahead and do that, because otherwise, you know, I guess I'll just bounce it off. See, she can be this easy, but she'd really rather run. Yes. But there's that. That's my agenda for the next, you know, probably 15 minutes anyway. And then maybe watch the video. But anyway, wrap it up. So, as always, I appreciate you. Till the next time. See ya.